Hey guys, this is Andrei, a certified translator and the real estate concierge. This is a welcome from, late September, Minsk, Belarus. This is a quick update about how things are. The above or the following things I'm gonna say are not a media release. It's just a biased digest and a fairly distorted and, not very objective digest of the local and global headlines, just my personal opinion, which hopefully doesn't contradict with the YouTube policies and definitely shouldn't be in contrast, but it may be in contrast with your views. That's why you're watching this channel. And thank you very much in the beginning for those who support me on regular basis, the Patreon guys. That's the only way I can get money here in Belarus, which thing is a challenge basically, but it's doable. And thanks to all my YouTube subscribers who press likes and a few fellows that press dislikes. That keeps the whole show going. However, Patreon keeps the show going much more better. Let's get started. First things first, about the travel to Belarus. Travel is not restricted from this side. Poland, Lithuania and Latvia, of course you are unlikely to be holding one of these passports, are completely visa-free to Belarus, so you can drive your car into the country, and it's so until the end of 2023. As for the conventional visa-free modes, both Brest and Grodno visa-free modes are working, and the airport visa-free is also working. You may check if your country is eligible for one of these and see my respective videos. I'll put both links for the airport mode and for the general trips and ticks into the video description, so that you could see how it works and what kind of things you can have in mind before you take your trip here and while you are on your trip here. Getting a visa is not necessarily a challenge, depending firstly on what passport you have. So Pakistani applicants who are writing to me almost daily are unlikely to get a visa easily, at least because the original papers have to be posted there and there's almost no way to do that. Secondly, they have to do the real thing, the booking, the payment, and there's almost no way to actually do that. So it's like 99% I cannot help in these cases, especially if people haven't had good history of travel to Europe or America. And occasional Pakistani passport holders with US visas and everything, they just easily come here, no problem. They just have to go through the visa support process. And there are no unsolvable issues, I would say. There are expensive solutions. If you are living in one of the Western countries, I hate to generalize, but it's one of the Western countries, you can use that fly-in, fly-out visa-free mode, unless you are an American passport. Again, check if you're eligible. And if you do need a visa, if you wish to fly in and take a bus out of the country, which is the story with the current American guy in town, we're taking a traditional package to Brest and Grodno, this is doable. A visa applicant has to throw in a couple of papers into the envelope or go personally to the embassy, which is no challenge really. In most cases, they don't really do even appointments. The best place to apply is Vilnius, Lithuania, where they can serve you visa on express basis. Of course, there are always wrinkles, a few things to keep in mind, but again, it's really not like my attempt to apply for Schengen visa. I'm not even saying American visa, because this is something which I can only do after I've got myself a Schengen visa. So living in a paper aquarium or a glass aquarium like I do, I just wouldn't even judge about that. With all this in mind, I would like to conclude that traveling here is no challenge and it's definitely safe. Confirming that as an everyday person and not as a tour guide willing to take some people on tours or anything, or to relocate. So if you have plans to come to Belarus, do that before the new COVID works its magic. It seems like the new variant, whatever they call it, of COVID is parading through some countries already, and they report the deaths and cases and everything, and it may take a month or even less before the UN starts ringing alarm bells, and you guys will be living in an aquarium too. QR aquarium. It's no longer paper, so environmentalists should be happy about saving trees, but all the electronic limitations of your travel, basically there is no fence, there are no bars, but you just can't move. That's a bit discomforting. Oh, unless you are in business of relocating people to Belarus. In this case, if you get the electronic fence, drop me an email, we'll find a solution for your base over here, temporary or permanent. Let's start with some semi-optimistic and semi-pessimistic news piece from Europe, where our opposition leader, exiled or let's say, who escaped from the local system, is trying to find a solution to the new creative problem. The local government here in Belarus has introduced a ban for the consulates to renew passports of those who are living overseas. So whether or not they ran away or just relocated years ago, they will not be able to legally and efficiently renew their passports and just attending the local consular section. They have to come to Belarus, where of course their history of involvement in opposition movement will be checked. Another uncomfortable innovation over here, the locally issued power of attorney from you living overseas is the only way you can manage your operations here. For instance, you can sell your property. And by the way, there's some 1/3 property is selling in Minsk on the power of attorney, so that speaks of a great deal of people who are relocating, and a great deal of properties that can go flexible in price, by the way. So the problem is one has to come back here to Belarus to see a notary and to go through the passports control and everything, and to issue a power of attorney that would solve this or that matter. So this is also quite uncomfortable. So the opposition leader is looking for a solution like a new international passport for the exiled Belarusians to resolve the matter of replacing their home passport, so at least they could travel with a valid document through Europe somewhere. So this is an interesting challenge, which is probably unprecedented in the modern history of Europe, and we will see which way it's going to be resolved. One of the first relocation clients of mine, an American citizen who is an authentic American with passport and everything, has just sold his one-room flat in Uruchie, the favorite district of mine in the east of Minsk. A great starting point, middle class area, nice, clean, safe, blah, 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 for $54,000. So it's a nice way we saved money compared to the buying price, 47.5, and a bit of renovation money invested in through the year. The guy got kids, so he seeks to expand his living space. And I'm delighted my choice 2 years ago was just wise in retrospect. So we're now looking to buy a 3-room flat somewhere in Minsk. And the budget's going to be around $85,000, $90,000. We'll make a story about this later. And you might say, or you might suggest, which living area you prefer, and you would have preferred perhaps if you could buy a 3-room flat somewhere in Minsk for the family life. If you have a preferred place to live, you could share your ideas in the comment. Our car making industry is going to rock the world economy again. On top of the Geely brand that is having assembly here in Belarus and is not really massively, let's say, filling the market yet. The Geely guys bought Volvo, for those of you who have never heard of the brand. The Honky guys, I'm sorry if I misspelled that, the Chinese Honky guys are going to have an assembly as well. So now they are having negotiations at the factory that once produced some Ford vehicles in the 90s, by the way, and we can see and we can probably guess what's going to happen out of that. Now the Russian market isn't really protected by the local government because the foreign makers are gone, so this little story has a potentially. I hate to be quoting bureaucrats, local or foreign, but a high-standing German bureaucrat has just claimed that the United Nations system isn't really fitting the modern realities. Well, YouTube doesn't allow me to put it in a very straightforward way, but I guess I could agree with that because I have some friends and friends of friends who have worked in the system, and you couldn't think of a more bureaucratic, untransparent and corrupt organization, worldwide organization. We will save more critical terms for later because of the censorship that doesn't exist in the West. And the thing could really work better, and they could use fewer forms and fewer papers, not to mention the recruitment process. In the meantime, the EU bureaucrats have pronounced Belarus as a full party in the war with Ukraine, Russia and Ukrainian war, which is sad. So parallel to that, the local representative to the United Nations is talking about the further potential cooperation and projects between the United Nations and Belarus. We'll see what comes out of that long term. At a lecture in one of the universities here locally, the speakers have declared that Belarusian economy policies are aimed at upping the level of living of Belarusians. Strangely enough, middle class here may actually seem to be having a agreeably acceptable way of life. Of course, it's always arguable. The more you earn, the more you spend. Cheap bank loans that are available, but they are not available here, may force you to spend even more. So some critics of consumerism may even say that locals here are doing better than those in the Western countries, which have a juicy interest rate for a bank loan. That's why they could afford a $200,000 home. I mean, it's probably a cheap home somewhere there where you live, guys. So I'm thinking, not aiming really, to film something about economy here, about salaries and stuff like that. But firstly, it's going to be tricky because not many salary earners, I mean salary versus profit from business, from one's private business initiative, are openly ready to declare how much they earn, like a school teacher or something, stand here before me and tell you for the camera how much they earn and what kind of tricks exist about their earning more, earning less. So I'm not sure about that. And definitely a full-scale analysis with a report from the province or from here will be also tricky to film for a guy like me, because I do not belong to the media. I'm not sure if you're going to be interested about that, but you can ask some economy questions down below, and to the best of my knowledge I'll try to cover that aspect, especially that potential video about people's salaries. The damaging, unproductive and of course violent and undesirable war in Ukraine is continuing, and leaving the above mentioned facts on the side, I will not be commenting on them. You know that my position as that of a capitalist is against the war. It has ruined a lot of plans, the ideas, initiatives, lives, for God's sake. So that's obvious, and I'm not going to comment on that. It's still running, and it seems like in the West, the supplies, bit by bit supplies of the war, are getting the public to a point where they start asking questions whether or not money is spent effectively, what's coming out of that thing, and whether or not the whole thing is actually coming to some kind of an end, with voices saying that there should be some negotiations or some kind of a peace deal moderated. That's not the point. The point is that apparently the grain supplies from Ukraine has been not really welcomed by the allies that are dropping off a couple of tanks and aircraft per month for the Ukrainian cause. Poland, Hungary and a few other countries are really not opening their borders for the grain supplies from Ukraine now that the grain deal with Russia and other folks collapsed. I'm not really sure what this was about. I guess export of Ukrainian grains worldwide. I mean, I'm not covering that topic, so I don't really know the details, like who screwed whom. I guess everybody's screwing everybody. So this is an interesting indicator that the West isn't really unified about the Ukrainian cause, and within the next few months, that would be before the Russian presidential elections next March, next year, 2024, something's going to happen, and it may lead to the resolution of this conflict. Hopefully so. Entering the country by car, I mean, EU to Belarus is a bit of a challenge. Poland only keeps one border checkpoint, and Latvia has only kept one. And the further car travel from Belarus to EU is a bit troubled, because local plates can't be won't be allowed to Latvia very soon. Not sure if Lithuania and Poland will pass that thing. Generally, the car travel is not a good choice, because the border crossing time may be 5 to 10 hours, give or take, and it's really hard to predict what kind of travel time you're gonna get by passing all the services. My friends, two wonderful gentlemen from the riot police force of Minsk, have just approached me to ask what is happening and whether or not there's something wrong about the stuff I'm filming. I mean, most of my stuff is positive for Belarus from the current system's point of view, so they departed and we parted in the most friendly fashion. So my previous line was a bit shaky because of that. Basically, for now, this would be the end of my compilation of headlines for today. Got to go to Grodno and Brest with an American guy who is actually the first classical tourist in 2 years' time. I mean, all the bed and breakfast stuff that I started forgetting how it works. And if you have any questions, guys, as always, any feedback underneath the video is quite welcome. So if you have any plans to travel down here or to relocate to Belarus, you're most welcome to get in touch with me. A paid consultancy would be a very good start. I mean, $50 is a great way to save $50,000, or lesser amounts. And it would be quite reasonable to, go step by step with an official and professional helper on this side. I'll be happy to give you a hand in relocating, or at least just to meet you in Minsk and have a coffee and a conversation about things. The expat events will soon be renewed Sunday evenings, and we will see if we keep the old beer place or go to a new one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your likes and dislikes, any feedback, and I hope to see you in Minsk someday. Cheers.